much, and welcome to yet another episode of the Youth Roundtable here on Civic Space TV. Some days when we come on this show, the days coincide with important events. Today we await to see a very interesting day on the sides of a couple of our colleagues here with the Forum for Democratic Change. But in general, as you know, this space is for us to discuss our collective future as young Ugandans, to dissect the issues, to bring on board some of our best leaders and those who are in spaces that are able to make decisions or influence decisions, to be able to dissect issues so that through soundboarding, we are able to improve Uganda, we are able to improve Uganda from the different spaces that we hold. Today, we are delving into an interesting discussion. Like I said, coincidence, it's 19th September. We expect a play out at our brothers, the Forum for Democratic Change. We will wait to see how the days goes, but these are important days for democracy. The last time we were here on the show, we were discussing while Birigwa was jumping over a fence.
Yeah.
That was interesting, and we had to keep following updates. So we hope today will not be a similar day. Yeah. We shall also be discussing the performance of our government, of course, as we should. Young people, our job is to critique. Yesterday, the Minister for General Duties, Justin Lumumba, sat down and unleashed several statistics and reviews about government performance. It's midterm, the election roadmap is out. It's very imperative that we know how our government is performing. But we shall start with the issue on Forum for Democratic Change. And with me is a very capable panel, but also well-informed. I will start by introducing my brother here, Masawi Ivan, who is the FDC chair for youth in Mbale City. You're most welcome.
Thank you very much. Really grateful being back on the panel, meeting my elders and brothers here. Thank you very much.
Yeah, it's also good to have you, because you're from FDC, but you're also from Mbale. So you might know a little bit more than the rest of us. Then we have Moses Kidega, CDE. He's also Secretary for Labor Affairs at National Youth Council, a software engineer, a lawyer, among many things. You're most welcome.
Thank you very much, Sam. Those are very kind introductions.
Yes.
And to the viewers out there, good morning. I'm very happy to be here. And I'm happy to join a panel of distinguished, immaculate young people here. The likes of Kateregga, the likes of Justus, my brother, Masawi, and of course yourself, our moderator. A very fantastic panel, and I'm happy to be here, really.
Yes, and we'll be looking forward to your insights. We also have Honorable Justus Tukamushaba from the FDC Youth League. You're most welcome.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mr. Moderator. I'm so happy and glad also to be part of this panel, and I'm also looking forward to enjoy this discussion as well.
You're most welcome. And finally, Honorable Kateregga, my guild president and the Lord Councilor for Kawempe. You're most welcome.
Thank you, Sam, and good afternoon to the viewers. It is very lovely to be joining this panel with wonderful brains around once again. And I look forward to fruitful deliberations. Thank you.
Comrade Kateregga is also a member of the University Council of Makerere University, arguably the biggest university in this region. Yeah, so that cannot be left out. Yes, gentlemen, delving into the discussion, we want to start with this issue around Forum for Democratic Change. One thing I like about the Youth Roundtable, if there's any issue with one party, it affects all. So we all, when it's NRM's day, we go there. But for today, it's a Forum for Democratic Change. Yesterday, we saw a court matter where, again, the factions of FDC that have been showing over the last few months coming out. We saw Lukwago trying to represent Birigwa in court. The judge clearly said he had no instructions. And the only person with instructions is Council Galisonga. Yes, among other issues that have been happening. But that is just a symptom again of the factioning in the Forum for Democratic Change that has been continuing. We see what we call the Katonga Group, Rescue, FDC, moving around the country. And slated for today, notwithstanding the court order, interim court order blocking it, is a delegates conference, which, if it happened, would mean FDC for the first time would have two leaderships at the same time, like a snake with two heads. So I would like to start with Comrade Ivan. Please, the youth out there, there's a lot going on, a lot of dust, but you're inside the dust. So could you please give us your perspective from the inside?
Thank you very much, my brother, the moderator, Sam. In 2016, when I was finishing my high school, I think is when I first joined the FDC. I remember there were some members who came to lift us up, the current Chief Magistrate, Councilor Matanda, and the likes. Came with General Mugisha Muntu, who was our party president then, and recruited majority of us to the FDC Youth Academy, because FDC was the one addressing the issues of the environment, the issues that were touching majority of us then, the issues that we desire to see as people who are looking to see change, light, and also a transition in terms of governance. I joined the FDC with a lot of love and passion, but as time moved on, I will move a little faster so that fellow colleagues can also have a say. We experienced a challenge during a transition of power internally. I think the FDC problem being that it is internal, that has not started now. To me, as a member who happened to have witnessed the election which General Mugisha Muntu ran with Engineer Patrick Boyamriat, by then I was supporting General Mugisha Muntu. I think we were the boys when Matanda sends you, go and tell people General Mugisha Muntu is coming. I was very passionate. I can say I learned. He was a teacher. He had values and characters that were consistent day and night. We went into the election. I think is where FDC developed issues that up to today we have still grappled as a party.
That was Muntu versus Amuriat.
Versus Amuriat. Is where I saw that people internally were seeing others as competitors throughout, not only competitors when it comes to a moment of transition. And I think to check the party is why I don't believe in people saying that issues in FDC are being fueled. I have observed these issues, and we have case scenarios. The DP, when Norbert Mao went and beat the Honorable Sevaga, Nasa, Ntege, you saw that election. As long as someone came from nowhere and took upon the big office within any party. In UPC, when Mama Mirio Bote left, they had developed factions between Olaa Otunu, Jimmy Akena, and then came Walakira group at Uganda House. All this happened in UPC, and later as they grow, people will look for protection. Akena had to look for protection by doing alliances that protect him. DP, Mao has reached an extent of looking for protection because the people he believed he had come maybe
Cooperation.
To grow with in terms of Democratic Party, he felt insecure now. He had to look for what? For protection. So it is a vice that was just in a pipeline, given that FDC was lucky to be the party that has collected the highest brains this country has ever had together in a short term. I don't think there is a party, apart from DP, that collected a lot of scholars like FDC did. Maybe DP is the only unique party in the history of Uganda, I think, to have been a party that produces a lot of maybe elite politicians, per se. But FDC collected a lot of people that other parties had even mentored and had a chance to do better. We feel guilty, me inclusive, that we have underperformed to test. These are just testing moments. Anyone discussing FDC that whatever is observing is new is lost. These things have happened. And why they happen is our political environment. They are meant to happen anywhere in any part in Uganda with the current political environment, where you are uncertain of when the ice will break, where the system, the decoration of our political party system and the spaces itself. There are certain challenges that are permanent and there are those that are temporary.
So do you think this is a temporary?
This is a permanent challenge. Anyone forming even a political, even art, is why I reached some extent after the breakdown of General Mukishamu. Some of us who were annoyed, we thanked that in that time came a movement. I think Power helped a lot of people. You saw people like Gilbert Olanya, they asked, me inclusive. We had to join because it brought hope. It brought hope and anger that than wasting your anger here, you better carry it and work with people who are still gearing to a bigger issue. Because the bigger issue to Ugandans is not FDC. The biggest issue to Ugandans is the change they want to see. Is the better growth in democratic means that you want to bring into place. I think it's the better advocacy they want to hear from the leaders. But with time, given that there came individuals are manufactured in their systems, we saw, I think if this is challenge began the day, people fail to differentiate between activism and a party. I think when an activist, you don't need to be much into identity politics. You can work with anyone as long as you're on the same cause. That an activist, if I'm operating a Katonga office, you run with DP, you run with even those in NRM who you know today you're standing on the same side. But a party will be interested to live by its constitution, its principles, its values, which is different. And in the long run, when people who went to activism wanted to remain with the leg in the party, and those who maintained in the party felt that maybe they are overshadowed, it is just permanent that the party will also want space. And activism promotes more interaction if we are to be realistic. Because with activism, you don't need to always wait that we shall have a resolution, shall have I think it is the party system also brought a lot of laziness when it came to action. Because with activism, people are, you feel you don't need to, you need to stand by what you believe in. So the current issues, when I see the court case, when I see the issues of factions, it has not started today. The other day, you will find that Musumba was in it and Virigo was supporting someone else. Today, they have everyone is looking for protection. Well, how will I survive? Similarly, at a moment, I also looked for survival. But when you discover that whenever we go into a game of in moments, what will I survive with? How will I survive to win Kampala? How will I survive to win in the village in Mbale? How will I survive to win in Budadili West? Because the environments are different. I think the party loses because also as members we have discovered that we left a lot of power to the top organs, and as members we went asleep. It is when you read about Colonel Muammar Gaddafi's book, the Green Book, pointing to issues of parties, you will discover that it is us here in Uganda where a party should be built in an image of an individual. UPC was by Obote, DP also had its grandfathers, and as long as the grandfathers failed to oversee a transition, we are here crying as FDC, but there is someone who is going to cry in the nearby future. And all Ugandans, we shall also witness. We don't know, but we are also going to observe. Transitions will pain everyone. Transitions are not for one man. As long as you're not impotent, you have to have a transition in your family, whether you want or you don't want. So it is a learning moment, but given that FDC party, which me, I believe built me and gave birth to me, I always had this perception that we have a lot of people who are exposed, they will do better. But I think with time, personally, I believe I am also responsible for the state, because we failed on transition politics. When we failed in 20, from the election that took away General Mugisha Muntu, the Winnie Kizas and the likes, the Paul Mwiro, the Honorable Genga Latigo, it was the challenge. That was where FDC got. What is taking place now are just the outcomes, the results of the continued failures of not putting things right.
We will get back on whether there is any chance to maybe salvage what is left of FDC. But I also wanted, for purposes of our viewers, to give you 1 more minute just to describe what is happening right now from your internal perspective. Because most of our viewers, of course, what they get is...
And you should tell us where he stands, which faction does he belong to.
Kateregga is also asking for your stand. Yeah, but generally, what is happening? Could you give our viewers a picture?
If we decide to look at the court case, a viewer will not have a clear perception of the current issue. The current issue all comes from the current election that is taking place. Part of the members who belong to the Katonga faction believe the resolution made 3 years ago in 2019 on when the party was supposed to have in 2020 delegates conference, but because of COVID pushed forward, made some resolutions that some people, a faction now led by the chairman of the party, believed that there were some issues in the party to harmonize on in terms of candidature, how to give, how the party can operate, but those issues were not given time. Then another issue is the funding, where we can't run away. There were allegations that the funding, actually I think it is where some people are using as a weapon, but now in court they are not going to use funding as a weapon. The reality came from the next decision that people in any party, the people want power. Those who are in the party and wanted power were always working to close out those who are working from out when power time comes. Let's be realistic. I belong to one of the group which has been in the party and it has been very intentional that I want to be this come the next delegates conference. Such people will not allow someone because he has a bigger say or is publicity to come and tell him that for you can't market the party more, I can market the party more. For him, he believes he has been keeping the party. For you, you believe you're a brand of the party, you market it better. So that is where let no one be denied about money or what. It all there is a politics of damage and what. It will all come out. But the whole issue came from those who are in the party wanting to enslave themselves, that since the other ones operate from out, for us, let's take over the party. Yes? Because if really someone was to give anyone in FDC money, I think that person would have given Dr. Kiza just the money, because really he had more weight than any member given the way parties in Uganda are going. He would have given, I think, it is the very allegation that was made that led to the crisis of General Mugisha Muntu and Winnie Kiza. The allegations are not new. They have always come at a time of election, a time of a transition. I think the culture is old, the players are old, and there are no new solutions. And even if FDC even if the current aspirants win, they will face the same challenges as long as we don't get solutions.
It's fine. Thank you very much, Comrade Ivan there. And I would like to bring in your colleague. I hope you're in the same faction. But we'll find out during the discussion. Before we go to...
We have the same grandfather.
Before we go to our colleagues from the sister parties. Yeah. Comrade, we see a lot of factionalism, at least publicly, from the FDC. There's something called Rescue Team, FDC Rescue.
Yeah.
Then there's Katonga. I don't know if that is the same team. We see Birigwa, Besije, and the likes of Semuju on the one side. Then we see Amuriat, of course, and Nandala Mafabi on the other side.
Actually, it is Nandala. Amuriat is just part of Nandala team. Let me be very clear to you. Yes. There are people we know who own the party, who have more energy in the party. When we discuss, we need to be honest.
Yes.
the Honorable Nandala in the party is only Dr. Kiza Besigye who has been stronger than him. We need to be very honest in terms of influence because he has been a treasury of the party.
Yeah. So thank you for that clarification. Yeah, just bringing that into perspective. Like we see Dr. Kiza Besigye also still playing maybe a more pronounced role, even more pronounced role this year. What do you make of the factionalism going in FDC, especially as the youth within the party?
Yeah, thank you so much, Mr. Moderator. I remember the time my heart got so touched to FDC was the time I saw how good their ideology and how good the ideology of FDC was.
Yes.
And it took my attention, and I felt like I should also get a cup of this ideology, and of which I think I have. So the FDC scandals, I guess at this point in time, they have become so personal. So personal.
Right.
I remember that time when I was here, I was talking about, discussing about the mistake that Doctor did, I guess, and it was a mistake indeed. Coming up with an idea of a party, well knowing that at some point he has to retire, and he doesn't organize people that are going to take on the leadership. So I guess that was one of the mistakes that Doctor did, and of which we are now facing the repercussions. Yeah, so when you look at Mr. Nandara and Mr. Power, you realize that it's now personal. I supported you. I was there for you. I remember the time when Mr. Power was actually telling Besigye how he didn't support him, how even Nandara was accusing of Besigye sleeping when Power was running his elections. So you reach at a point and you feel like now it has become so personal. And in everything that Power is doing, I guess is doing it to make Nandara happy because he was there for him when he needed him at that point.
Yes.
And of which we all know that is human. That is human. But then it comes back to the sense of what are the principles of the party? Are we really following the principles of the party? There are some things that we join. For example, if it is like a revolution, we need to look at the expedition that we are running. We don't have to look at I don't have to look at the comradeship that I have with a particular person because we're representing a lot of people. So I guess that is where the problem is coming in. So now they have reached at a point of paying each other's debts. And they are using the party to do that, which is so bad at this moment. Recently, you saw how Mr. Power wants, the president of the party, wants to overshadow the chairman of the party. And I guess the constitution is very clear on that. The chairman holds powers in regards to holding a delegates conference. So there is no way you can tell me that a president of the party can actually summon the chairman to the disciplinary committee. That is not right regarding the constitution of the party. You get it is like now saying that my brother here is from National Unity Platform. It's like saying that now Bobby Wine has now come. He wants to understand how the finances of the party are running. He wants to understand how the Mr. Rubongoya is running his things. You get. I guess now that alone brings in doubts in people and trust issues. So I guess if there is anything that I'm not happy with is how the president is handling things, and plus the general secretary. If it is true that Mr. Nandara wants to run for presidency, I guess he would have used any other way possible. And if he's to remember very well, or if Power wants to pay back to Nandara, he has to also remember that there is a debt he has to Kiza Besigye. Okay, he might have looked at it maybe in the angle of him being there for Besigye a lot of times, financing the campaigns, as he was saying at certain interviews here and there, that he had used to support Kiza Besigye during that time. So I guess he has to sit back and realize, when someone introduces you to a bread, You have to understand that at some point you have to take back the wheat if you happen to get. So you take back to the bakery, because you won't be happy to see the bakery getting burnt and when it is totally off, because you always realize that at some point, when I was hungry, I came here and I ate something. So I guess I wouldn't be happy to see when I wouldn't be happy to see that it is perishing.
Yes.
Yet I think I can
Do
do something about that.
Yeah.
So I think that is the same thing.
That's a double-edged sword, because it also brings back his.
Yeah. So I guess that is something that he needs to understand, that Kizza Besigye introduced him to such a position, you get, and he also contributed to what he has now. I guess there is no way the Right Honorable Speaker Anita Mongi right now can stand in front of a camera and accuse Besigye for not being there for her. And right now, she still even appreciates the ideology and the lessons that she learned from Kizza Besigye. So
the deputy speaker.
even the deputy speaker himself, and he appreciates that.
Yes.
So it is something that Nandara has to adopt. You get, that has to adopt to Dr. Kizza Besigye.
Yes, thank you very much. We'll get back into the current affairs, especially what today means for FDC, depending on the scenarios that play out, but also in terms of the youth, because especially on the youth roundtable, clearly these are not battles of our generation, but we keep being used all over the place. So we need to also discuss that. But I would first like to bring in the sister parties, which I believe parties are supposed to complement each other. It's a service to have different parties, guiding each other. So I would like to start with Comrade Kateregga. What do you make of the situation at FDC, coming from the perspective of a National Youth Platform leader, but also a member of the opposition?
Thank you, Sam.
Yeah.
The challenges in the FDC are structural, not to the party, but to the realities of our society. FDC I would be right to say that is an historical party as it stands today. I mean, after 19 years or 20 years of existence, we were very young when the FDC came into force after the reform agenda. Masawi has talked about the distinct individuals who have identified with the FDC. Something, for example, we did not have a chance to have when we started out in 2020. When you compare the kind of brains that set out to start the FDC, the reform agenda, and their standing by 2001, 2000, the days of the reform agenda, or what you would equate to the people power, which eventually metamorphosed into the FDC, like we metamorphosed into the National Unity Platform. We did not enjoy the same privilege. I am the first person to be elected. I'm amongst the very first people to be elected under the people power when it was declared. And we were the first faces.
At Makerere University.
Yes. And when we went on to be the face, of what we stood for, we knew what we stood for and our beliefs. What we had then were ourselves, youth leaders, guild presidents, ourselves. Look at the FDC, or the reform agenda when it started out. It had ambassadors, it had
Members of parliament.
Members of
Dr.
parliament.
Kizza Besigye himself was a minister in NRM.
Exactly. It had army commanders like General Muntu. It had people like Amanya Mshega, the Honorable Amanya Mshega, who is a historical, but who had also moved. It had people like the late Chigundu. I mean, these outstanding members of
Ogenga Ratigo.
Yes, the Maurice Ogenga Ratigos of this world. And so, like they both said, it hurts that the structure or the Al-Nakaba, the occupation, the NRM, the system which is being fueled to sustain the NRM, has led the FDC where it is. Structurally, like Sam and Moses and myself, we belonged to the UID back in the day, and part of the reasons we left the UID could be different reasons, but for the 12U. But one of the reasons I left the UID, not the UID, but didn't join DP after leaving the UID.
That's a good clarification.
Yes, that after joining, after when I left UID to National Interplatform, instead of what would be expected joining the Democratic Party, its mother party, is that parties begin eating themselves, begin misrepresenting what they stand for, but not because that is what they intended to, but the structure or the terrain of the political terrain of this country has been changing since the day Genome 7 woke up and decided that he would do everything to sustain his life presidency, that he would do anything to sustain a consistency of his monarchy, what he intends to construct here. And the sufferers have to be the competitors. The competing ideology of the FDC, which is a social democratic party, which has, had outstanding members of community of the society opposed to him, the Betkamias of this world, telling him that you were wrong. And after some time, they because political leaders are but a representation of the general society. And they remain leaders even when they don't occupy these offices. People begin mirroring themselves, continue to mirror themselves and their aspirations into these people. So because the system continues to mount lots of pressures, political and otherwise, you end up, destroying the nerve and beautiful systems like the FDC, like the Democratic Party was eaten up, like the UPC has been eaten up, and a number of other structures. So for me, I think the challenges that the FDC is faced with are structural. That notwithstanding, I am very ashamed that young people like Masawi, who I believe in, can come out boldly and say that for me, I support Nandala, not because he's right, but because Nandala has worked more for what he has.
He has been bankrolling the party.
Yes, that Nandala has been bankrolling the party. I think we should desist from such behavior. In any case, whereas Nandala, like I have described the terrain, the political terrain for this nation, we've seen people who have been richer than Nandala in the FDC. A good example is the late engineer Dr. Badiru Chigu, who lost the Greenland Bank, eventually lost his life to health complications because of such challenges. We've seen people like the late Sam Njuba, Kateregga Njuba, who what it all means. In any case, if that is Nandala's justification, that I have been bankrolling, I have been supporting the activities of the FDC, it is very absurd. He was not doing, and he should know, and we should tell him straight in the face that, Right Honorable Nathan Nandala Mafabi, you've not been doing Ugandans a favor. In being Secretary General of the party, you're not doing Ugandans a favor. You are not doing Ugandans a favor, all the people of FDC, in being their treasurer, secretary to treasurer, you were not doing them a favor. These are responsibilities that were bestowed onto you upon request. You expressed interest and you ran. That does not give you prerogative or, reasons, ground, standing for you to come and destroy such a wonderful party.
Yes.
As for the party president, Amriat, I may not have any soft or kind words. I remember, even when in the 2016 elections, I was still very young, just getting out of high school. Colleagues, if you went, at that time we had joined Facebook, I was very active in that election. Not because I belonged to even when I belonged to a different party, but we all did whatever we did to make sure that we pushed, Kano messages, because we understood that this is not his agenda. It has never been about Kano messages. It has never been about Norbert Mao.
Talk about the 26 election.
Yes,
2016.
Yes, the 2016 general election,
Yes.
where I participated in the recruitment of the people. No,
Dr.
back
Kiza
in the
yesterday
FDC,
was
even when I
There
was a
was an
member
alliance even
of the UID, and the Democratic Party had gone on to back the Right Honorable Mama Mbabas. We, the UID youth, young people, even before joining the university, we were on the grassroots working to ensure that this country is delivered to meaningful change. And we supported the agenda of Kano Besigye. Nandala should also be reminded that there are the people who have been forcing people like Besigye who didn't want to run. For example, in the 2016 general election, Kano Besigye made such a sacrifice for the party. So it cannot be. You cannot be the same person. You remember. And now this learning, they are washing and out in the public. We are getting to understand how they forced Kano Besigye into this election after refusing. How they were trying to force him into the 2021, general election against his will. And so I think they should have a stop. They should also know that they should give themselves a chance to pick where they want to put FDC. If they want to see FDC being relegated to a UPC,
scenario.
Yes, or a DP kind of scenario, because that is where they are going to lead the party. And I think for me, there is still time to FDC, in due honesty, has been the true representation of democracy in this country.
Yes.
In as far as political
So you
parties,
think there's a chance, and there should be a chance?
There should be a chance, because as far as standing, when us who were supporting General Mugisha Muntu in, was it 2017?
2017,
Yes.
December.
Yes, that was in our year one at university. Even when we were belonging to different systems, because it was advancing an agenda. But you saw that when he lost honorably, he did not choose to destroy the party. He walked away honorably. Please don't destroy this party, because on it, there are memories and epitaphs. People have worked for that party. Please don't water down the sacrifice of the people.
Thank you very much, comrade. And later we'll discuss also the relationships, the dynamics between FDC and, of course, NUP, in opposition itself. But before we go for the end of the a break, I'd like to bring in Comrade Kidega, who, of course, on this panel is a representation of the National Resistance Movement, among other titles. But for purposes of this discussion, we are dealing with an issue around a sister party facing factionalism. I really liked what Comrade Ivan said, that these are factionalism and cliquism. I think those are the things that were being taught UID. Cliquism is something that, as a leader, you always see and you must always disentangle. It's a permanent problem. The National Resistance Movement, for some reason, at least in the public, has remained one. It is not that there are no issues, but we know that. So how is it that it has managed to maintain this singular path, but also stating that in the light of what is happening at FDC, because FDC has a lot of our young colleagues, and it is imperative that we deal with these as collective issues. You're most welcome, comrade.
Thank you very much, Sam. Sam, there is a woman called Dambisa Moyo. Dambisa Moyo is currently a member of the House of Lords in the UK. Dambisa Moyo authored a book called Dead Aid. In her book, she argued and said that, is Africa ready for a multi-party dispensation, or do we need a benevolent leader? I think that question has continued to hang in a balance, and I think it has never been answered. Because the issues today that we see in the FDC, in the Democratic Party, in the NRM, in the Uganda People's Congress are issues that are structural in nature. And if you are to go back and get some context into how we found ourselves having a multi-party dispensation as a country, is that it was as a result of, first of all, a referendum, but then later on, a constitutional court that later became a Supreme Court decision in the Paul Kawanga case. Is that towards independence, we had our independence political parties, the Democratic Party, and of course UPC, that did represent our views in Lancaster and in Marlborough, and they were at the center of ensuring our independence as a country.
Yes, yes.
Post-independence, these same political parties remained, but you may recall that the 1967 Constitution abolished political parties. Yes, abolished political parties that were only reinstated in 2005. All right, still as a result of agitation and clamor from the people. But the question still remains that even when we adopted the multi-party dispensation, you know that Article 69 still acknowledges the movement system and the multi-party dispensation. It means that when one is in force, the other is in abeyance. So you see that even when we adopted this system, we still at the backdrop of our minds believe that maybe there is room for us to go back to the movement system. But
is that the operating operating theory of NRM in usurping some of these parties?
In reality, it is, but on paper,
And the fact that
it
they
is
have
the
not
fact.
operationalized Article 73 of the Constitution. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sam,
Proceed.
I was quiet when Michael.
No, but you have the right to interject. Okay, proceed.
Sure. Yeah, but Sam, the point I was trying to make to you is that even when we have adopted the multi-party dispensation, the other system is in abeyance. It means that we believe that this system is not sufficient. And whereby it proves to be a shortcoming, we should have the latitude to go back to our movement system. But Sam, we forget too fast. Just look at Africa in general. In Tanzania, its independence political party, Chama cha Mapinduzi, is still the ruling political party. You look at Mozambique, Frelimo, that was founded by Samora Machel, is still the leading political party. South Africa, the African National Congress. There is something about independence political parties. Even Kenya. Today, you have UDA, you've had Jubilee before, you've had the National Rainbow Coalition before. All these were factions that broke out from KANU. All right, and KANU was Kenya's independence political party.
Yes.
Bring it back to our context here today. The FDC and its departure from the NRM, because the FDC
I think most
departed
of us we have
from the
we have
NRM.
neglected questioning how did it come
Yes.
about. How did Dr. Besigye move out of we have
NRM.
left questioning?
Yes, the FDC and its founding members that they have ably mentioned here, the Honorable Amanda Bushegas, the Honorable Kiza Besigye, the General Mugisha Mutus were in fact part of the NRM. Who actually they were part of
Bush War
Of the NRA.
veterans. So how did they come to the point and depart from their original comrades, with whom they fought in the bush for 5 years and overthrew a government and reinstalled and installed themselves? I think that from the word go, the Front for Democratic Change contrary to what my colleagues are saying, that has an ideology. I think their
You think
departure,
it was reactionary?
it was a reactionary departure from the NRM. That is why today, 20 years down the road, they cannot sustain themselves. Because the party was not built on a foundation of ideology. It was a matter of disagreement, a matter of departure from a point of emotional dissatisfaction. And that is why today, in my view, they're suffering what they call a fatigue of hope. They've been trying to oust the NRM for over 20 years. They have failed. So these are syndromes of a fatigued institution that cannot run the race any further. All right? And I listened to one of the NRM historicals, and they said that they warned the FDC comrades and said that, colleagues, whatever issue we have internally, let's handle it. You don't need to depart. And
but like
they
you
spoke
said,
with
if
hindsight.
the main goal is to remove the NRM regime, then of course they'll end up with what you call a fatigue of hope.
Yeah.
But also to inform him, Chadema, like he has given us an example of Tanzania with the CCM. Chadema also departed from the from Chama Pinduzi, and even when he wants to reduce it down to agitation, it is largely a question of approach. When you don't agree with the people on the approach, like the FDC, like Kawempe came out and wrote a doza on why he was, you know, and people joined him in the reform agenda. DP then by Sebagala gave way for Kawempe to lead, you know, the forces of change, because they saw it as a breath of new air into the struggle back then, because of the people. There are many people who didn't believe in Genome 7 from the start. So it is not right for him to come here and say that when you have, we've seen.
Comrades, I want to bring a question to align this as you run down the time towards the segment. Could it also be a fatigue of not having a proper system? Because Uganda seems to be running a bipolar system. On the one side, we run a movement system, which is very active on ground. It is probably the idea
it's actually multipolar.
Then on this other side, we have a multi-party system, which, despite the fact that you say came from the
then a dictatorship on the
structured adjustment,
on the top,
the structured adjustment policy. Do you think this fatigue is what is causing all? Because right now, Kenya had the prolonged opportunity to build parties and all this. We have never had that chance. So we now have NUP. We don't understand. People don't understand exactly how to deal. We have the NRM. Future is not so clear. We have the FDC. The future is not. In fact, there's no party in Uganda.
It is individuals,
future is
but
clear.
parties we are.
Do you think it's because of some sort of multipolar? We don't have a clear system like Tanzania, Cuba, Russia, or some of these countries.
Sam, I beg to differ, because when you say that political parties are facing a sort of...
It was a question, not a point.
When you ask me that whether political parties are facing an uncertain future, I beg to disagree with you, because the NRM, internally at least, we know that we have a clear means through which either we elect our flag bearers. We have a clear mode of transition from one leader to another.
But that has never been seen.
For us, it does not linger in doubt. Neither does it hang in balance.
No, the issue is in the NRM, it has not been tested. While it is there, it has not been tested.
You are waiting for your exam, and the results shall be on the next board.
But please proceed.
You see,
we need your words for the future.
Sam,
yes.
I have to ask that you protect me on this.
Right.
I'm being interrupted.
Okay, please.
We cannot allow you to tell that.
So the NRM, unlike other political parties, has a strong internal and robust system. Of how to address internal disagreements. Even the Right Honorable Amama Mbabazi, he has ever since come back. He has ever since realized that perhaps the disagreement they had was not that deep that would warrant him to leave the party. And that is why he has ever since rejoined with his old comrades. So the NRM has a robust internal approach towards addressing issues, unlike our sister political parties. But my thought process is being interrupted. But what I was saying earlier on is that from my personal point of view, I believe in institutions.
Yes.
I believe that for us to have a strong institution, to have a strong governance system, we must have institutions that are independent and that are working. So it does not augur well with me to see that the FDC finds itself in turmoil and one group versus the other. We would love to see a strong FDC, we would love to see a strong NUP.
Yes.
Because in their independent strengths, then we can have a strong multi-party system, then and therefore a strong government structure in the country. But also, it is not our responsibility to organize them internally. Ugandans out there are watching and are seeing that the FDC that we thought had something, in fact, it is a very hollow political party. Because if you cannot address issues internally, because the split of FDC members is inevitable. It is only a matter of time. It is only a matter of time. And when that split happens, Ugandans are watching. And are indeed confirming that these political parties are not built on anything else, except for over time they've been peddling non-issues to Ugandans. Like where I come from in Acholi, the FDC was for long spreading lies and rumors. All right? Until when people like the Right Honorable Todwong began to speak about the issue.
What lies?
All right?
Let's not go
Until
there.
people like Right Honorable Todwong began to say, but no, these are the actual facts. All right? So you realize that besides rumors and lies, there is nothing else they have to tell Ugandans. And Ugandans, I can assure you, are very intelligent people and they're watching. So, whereas it's unfortunate that what's happening in the FDC is happening, it is also an indication of their lack of preparedness and their lack of substance. The court has pronounced itself with regards to the delegates conference that Ambassador Biregwa had called prior. And again, I don't know if the court is inviting itself to play politics, but I think that the court should have allowed the FDC constitution to deal with how it proposes internal conflict resolution mechanisms. I think that the court coming in at this point to take a decision usurps the FDC constitution and renders it only as worthy as the paper on which it is written. So I don't know. FDC shouldn't have allowed this issue to even get to a point of court. They should have handled this issue internally. So I think it is a shortcoming on their end, but I mean, nonetheless, Ugandans are out there and are watching, and they can only confirm the weakness of these political parties.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
I want to inform my brother Moses that FDC has a very nice ideology. If you're to look at the country right now, I guess it is what is feeding the country right now. As we're talking about the leaders here that were from FDC.
The best academy.
Yeah, you get. So, us saying that Kizza Besigye just went just because of dissatisfaction or anything else, I guess it was something, actually it was a replica of what they had thought of when they were going to the bush in NRA. You get. So that's why you saw it actually attract other people like the Mugisha Montus come to join Kizza Besigye. And you see how they have now become big people and great people in the country that are actually feeding the entire country. So I wanted to just inform my brother here.
Do you have anything to say?
I mean, my colleagues don't seem to appreciate the point here, which is that, okay, be it as it may, that Kizza Besigye left the NRM and many other colleagues joined him. Those same colleagues have ever since left him. Where are the Mugisha Mutus? Where are the Wafula Ogutus? Where are they today? They've ever
And
since left him.
retirement.
So they will continue leaving each other
At principle.
until all right, because once the sector cannot hold, once you are founded on weak grounds, you cannot hold. Sam, you cannot hold.
So you think FDC has
there is no
ideology?
nexus. There is no nexus that holds them together. Their point of foundation was premised on President Museveni promised us ABCD, and 10 years down the road, he has not delivered them to us. We now need to leave this sort of institution and form our own, where we can fight for what we also want to achieve. All right. So the point of departure.
Do you think maybe NUP has taken on from where FDC stopped?
Certainly, certainly, because even the foundation of the NUP and how it has emerged, there is nothing organic about it.
What do you mean?
They are riding on sentiments and on the frustration of factions of Ugandans. And this is where I consider and say that the NRM must address some of these issues. Short of which, they will have so many disgruntled Ugandans who will follow any leader, irrespective of whether they are ideologically upright or not. They will just go with anyone who offers them a semblance of hope. So the NRM must look into itself and address issues of corruption, issues of the healthcare, issues of infrastructure. For as long as these issues are still hanging, then anyone, any Tom, Dick, and Harry, any musician, will just come onto the stage and people will follow them.
That's information.
Right? Comrade Kateregga, yes.
Yes, I want to inform Moses. You see, the NRM is full of masqueraders, and of late is turning out to be one. He forgets, for example, where the NRM comes from. Dismissing, because they have lived so much in privilege, and they have been taking especially wrong decisions, like the structural adjustment policies, which they introduced here on our behalf, on behalf of the Ugandans, which have affected us inherently and weakened the nation that people like the late Dr. Apollo Milton Obote and Jenna Amin aimed at building with whichever rudimentary methods they were using then. He forgets that the NRM, for example, in its establishment, wants to look at us, downplay and degrade our leaders or ourselves, forgetting that these are the people who were robbing banks. That is how they came to. So the NRM is a construction inherently. It is full of thieves. No wonder they are ever full of scandals.
So do you think NRM has ideology, or it's the first reactionary movement? He has been accusing other entities of being reactionary, since he's a very good reader, he knows reasons for Genome 7 picking up arms and going to the Bush War. Very well. What did the Genome 7 say? That he had been rigged in an election where he was the last, where he actually got one member of parliament as a result of the killing of the DP strong man in Kase 7. And he was being reactionary in a way. So I think the problem is actually structural, partly because the occupants or the major duty bearers in the state and the government are reactionary.
To KJ, what does this party stand for? What are the principles of the NUP?
Let us start.
Before we go for a break, please. Because if you do, then you will try to ask him here before we go for a break. Ask him what does the NUP stand for.
Comrades, I'm going to break.
No, Sam. I want to respond.
I know KJ cannot answer that.
No, I want to respond. I want to respond.
No, put him to task.
Sam.
Gentlemen, let's do this. Let's do this. After we have asked that question to all
Let him outline.
political parties, I think it is fair that it runs through.
Outline.
And you need to answer to the youth out there. But Our dear viewers.
Why is Sam protecting me?
Our dear
Protecting
viewers,
you.
No, it's protecting you.
Our dear viewers,
Must give you time to
stick with
research
us. We are
after.
going to go for a short break, but stick with us here on the Youth Roundtable. In the next segment, we'll continue with some of these pertinent political issues, but also discuss the performance of government, because the government is you, and it is all of us. Thank you very much. Stick with us.
Digital rights are those human rights and legal rights that allow individuals to access, use, create, and publish digital media, or to access and use computers, other electronic devices, and telecommunication networks. Digital rights include a right to freedom of expression, information and communication through technology, a right to privacy and data protection, a right to credit for personal works, a right to universal and equal digital access, a right to identity, a right to anonymity, a right to be forgotten, and a right for protection of minors, among others. The state's digital rights are frequently violated through various unfair actions, for example, blockage of websites and social networks, theft of credentials, unauthorized use of people's data for personal gain, privacy intrusion, online censorship, arrests and intimidation of online users, internet blockages, and the proliferation of laws and regulations that undermine the potential of technology to drive social, economic, and political development worldwide. It is hence every citizen's responsibility to respect rights of other digital users and to speak out or report to the responsible parties when one's rights are violated.
Welcome back to this segment of the Youth Roundtable. Our dear viewers, as you know, the adage goes, the past is never past. History will always repeat itself. And politics is a science. The players may change, but the game stays the same. And today I'm blessed to have several scientists on the panel to dissect some of these, to prognose, diagnose, and solve some of these ailments that we have in our society. Especially today, we are in discussion about the Forum for Democratic Change, but we are continuing with, forth and backs on some of these different issues. And before we closed, we had Comrade Kidega, CDE, posing a question to Kateregga, which I believe he wants the opportunity to answer. I don't know if you also want the opportunity to repeat the question.
It was
asked.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
It was obvious.
Comrade Kidega asks what the National Inter-Platform stands for. Ideologically, I've made it clear here before that the National Inter-Platform is a social democratic party, a social democratic movement. What that means is that it is leftist. What we stand for, I also made very clear.
What are the social democratic principles?
Moses, I am responding.
Okay.
You have the floor.
Because
let's hear from him.
We made it very clear that we think inherently the challenge of Uganda continues to be poor leadership. And we came up with core values which guide us, what we call drifts. Because political parties majorly deal in construction and nurturing of political leaders, we set out to create leaders who respect core values, our drifts. That if we created leaders who are disciplined, leaders who are reliable, leaders who have fidelity, who are service oriented, we shall transform this nation, because we think
into a social democracy.
Into the social democracy, but inherently the challenge of the nation being poor leadership. So the kind of leaders that we intend or that we are constructing for this leader, because when you see the indiscipline of simple indiscipline that the NRM leaders, for example, continue to exhibit. The other day you saw a retired major in Mukono slapping a police person. We think that shouldn't be. This nation lacks decorum because of its leaders. So, and that is where we stand.
There's a question, just for clarity.
I'm
getting there. Hopefully we get the answer. Assuming you manage to take off Museveni, and you have a crop of capable leaders of national platform in power, what will that Ugandan look like? You can answer with your principles, or you can also give a comparative. Are there countries, for example, running the system that you look up to? Because I think that is something beyond removing Museveni, which you can do, that we need to...
If I may rephrase, are you asking the kind of Uganda we envision?
No, we are asking what is the social democratic
the principles of a social democratic... Yes.
Outside leadership and outside the fact that you've already dealt with the leadership. Assuming you've dealt with the leadership.
You've driven it home. Should we be in power today?
Yes.
Are we still on the topic?
Yes, we're on the topic.
Should we be in power today? I made it clear the other time. Let me, for the very last time, put it to I told you that we believe in a fiscal policy arrangement that taxes more of the rich and empowers small businesses to start. You get, because that is the arrangement of the social democratic, arrangement. We believe in an education that is affordable quality education.
Yes.
We believe in affordable health care arrangement for the nation.
Yes.
We believe in a redistribution of the national resources and capital to equitably address the challenges of the nation. And for the very last time, I do not want Moses or you and any other colleague to come up and dismiss what we are trying to do. That is why you remember the other time I came here and we were addressing the challenges. I told you we were tackling issues, we were talking to people in their sub-regions. I remember giving you an example of health system.
Comrade, I don't want us to veer off from the main topic, but I hope that fairly answers. We can have some time after the show to delve into that.
Thank you.
But I think that is good enough for my viewers, because at least they know what the NUP in power with its leaders would stand for. Now, but getting back to...
But also have the opportunity to weigh what if the NRM, if they indeed stand for the patriotism and whatever they front to stand up stand for.
Those are the values against which you weigh NRM. Exactly. But let's get back to the topic, which is Forum for Democratic Change. It's a very big day, and we need to give it our time. In the first segment, of course, you express your dismay that an institution like FDC, has died or is on its death crippled. Or is crippled. But there are proponents who say that NUP has actually benefited from this, the downfall of FDC. What do you have to say about that sentiment in our side, that NUP has simply taken up the space that FDC occupied, and it's actually something that has benefited your political party?
That is not true. That is not true.
Yes.
Why? The space that the NUP occupies largely has not been the space that the FDC. We came in to supplement the struggle for the liberation of the people of this nation. The only difference would be that I'll give you an example. The FDC in 2016 had was it 32 members of parliament, and they came from largely the eastern part and the western part of Uganda. So when the NUP came in, it supplemented those efforts of the FDC. The FDC still has 32 members of parliament, right? The NUP took on a space, but not because that is where we were meant to operate, but by the structure, like I said here the other day, that there is a system that was engineered to make us look like an outfit for here. So we came out, largely we supplemented those efforts in the central region, and the part of the eastern region where the FDC had not touched base. You understand? Going forward. So the FDC ordinarily was supposed to continue, or we are occupying, as it stands, we were operating in different spaces. We continue to eat on this space, elsewhere selling what we believe in. Largely the national unity platform. For me, what I think stands out is generational identity. That the younger people, us in our 20s and maybe early 30s, identified more
with the
national unity platform than with the traditional parties, and that was a major, compliment.
New voters.
That does not mean that that FDC had outlived its relevance.
So you would have preferred, for example, FDC to stay that strong and NUP to grow strong as well, so that you.
Because I'll give you an example for example, of Kenya, where when many forces emerged, when you have Wiper, and then you have the wheelbarrows that Kidega likes talking about and identifying with, and then you have the ODM, you have Ford Kenya, you have very many parties that are strong. And pushing the agenda, then likely in my mind, but this is now limited to me. I thought that when we have different forces that merge and have a say, we may reach a scenario or a peak and have an alliance that will outrightly overwhelm the dictatorship at play.
Yeah, thank you very much for that clarity. I just wanted you to speak to that sentiment because, of course, these things are talked about and we have to discuss them. But as we wrap up the issues around Forum for Democratic Change, I would like to bring in, first of all, Comrade Justus, and then you'll close before we move to another topic. Comrade, and I'll keep asking you this and this again, is the issue around the youth. Many of these, for example, Nandala, and if you look at the people bikering at FDC, they're largely in their 50s, or even some in their 60s. But as youth, and it's why normally we have sympathy on this panel. I've never seen a party with a problem on this panel, and people keep attacking. Even when they attack, it's positive criticism. Like last time when Kateregga was in the spotlight. Yeah. So what do you say to the fellow youth out there in FDC, especially going into today, where we are going to see possibly dissecting? We are waiting to see after the show, but there's possibility that there would be, a greater rift within the party. As a young person who just wants a good Uganda and a member of FDC, what do you have to say to them?
Thank you so much, Mr. Moderator Sam. I want to also agree with my elder brother here, Moses, about if we are ready for the multi-party system. I guess at some point we are not ready. And if you're to look at Uganda right now, having NRM into power, it was because of a movement. And you see for how long it has taken to stay in power. And at some point, I also want to reply to my brother here, Moses, that you see NRM had gone at a point where it also felt like as if it is missing something within itself. And it had to go to FDC and ship those people. And they have actually helped it so much, if you to look around. You have the right honorable speaker, you have the deputy speaker.
A lot of people are in NRM who are in FDC, not even 10 years ago, just 6-5 even.
That is the heart of the government.
Younger people who were nurtured
by the FDC. So,
FDC was part of NRM in the first place.
No, just recently, not 5 years ago.
We all have you as a high level of discourse.
So I guess FDC is not learning from its mistakes. If you're to look at what Nandala is doing and what the President Patrick Amodiat is doing, they're not learning from the mistake. I guess right now, if there would be anything that they would be doing right now, I guess it would be involving the youth. But right now, if you were to look at the structures that they are developing, I can assure you the youth are not at the forefront. This fight would be between the youth, and actually it would bring back the party, because you would know that at some point, if I have a one Ivan that I'm nurturing, you have my brother here, Ivan, but I would, if he can tell you when he last saw Nandara and have a one-on-one
I
talk.
can't lie. This month I met him in Mbale.
In Mbale.
I'm not lying.
So, what has he done to get the youth together? What programs are they running to involve the youth?
It could also be asked the other way around. What are the youth doing?
What
What is the youth voice within FDC? And does it then mean
the
maybe
leadership of...
But and just respond, political space is never given. It is fought for internally in system.
Yeah, I know that. I really know
So are
that.
there any, for example, strong youth voices? Oh, we are most likely, because what will happen then? Most
No,
likely
by mere
will be a
fact that
departure.
a youth of the FDC, are running for good presidency at some point, and having such a mobilization.
Yes, numbers.
I have numbers. I have people that I can say the ideology, that I can extend the ideology to. You get, that is enough of what I've done. Well, actually, not enough, but that is a point and part of what I've done. But what are they doing as the elders of the party? Are they involving the youth? If you to look at Museveni, he would go and look for those kadogos that used to run the bush wars and all other things, the attacks and all other things. So what are they doing right now? So I would want to tell the youth that at this point in time, it shouldn't be about a political party. It should be about a system. What systems are we bringing on board? I have a one sum. We have 2 generations ahead. We have so many generations ahead. So what are we planning? What are we planning for the generations to come? Are we benchmarking on these people that are in power? Are we benchmarking on our elders, what they are doing? I guess not. I guess it is something that we need to sit back as the youth and we decide on what direction we have to take. Whether we have to bring back the movement. You get, if we're to bring back the movement, because we have different sectors that we are running here. My brother here, Moses, is my brother Moses here is a lawyer. What is he doing in regards to having that field in his hands? And at some point, I will need his knowledge. This is something that we are going to use in the future, but we shouldn't be moving at a point of knowing that maybe I'm going to follow what my elder is going to decide. I guess we should sit down and realize that we need to take some directions ourselves, and we also need to involve ourselves in fighting for power, as my brother he was saying. Not fighting, but actually wanting to bring power closer to us and take decisions out
Thank
there.
you very much, Comrade. That's a very unifying statement right there. And I would like to come to you, Comrade Ivan. Of course, you've heard what all our colleagues to say. I believe you have some responses. But also, similar to him, like as a youth approaching today within the Forum for Democratic Change, what are the scenarios that you see happening, especially among the demographics that back FDC? Do you see, maybe people departing further, or yeah, but also I need you to respond to, especially Comrade Kidega.
Comrade Kidega's submission was not fit for purpose. You cannot carry General Museveni, the individual, to a discussion of party. It is just that each party's time for testing has come. We shall be here. We shall be here. I don't want to go back into it because it really distracts me from what I want to contribute.
Please, yeah.
But I never always want, when someone is discussing NRM and then the system it has created, I think even us in FDC, we are at a disservice that people like BSJ, who got issues with NRM and were welcome to run us as a party, have not really written down. I know he's a doctor, but he needs to get time and write a book so that certain readers like the road councilor, Honorable Kateregga, can read and interpret for us some of these mistakes because they have become generational. But before I respond to the youth, It is just critical that every party, I think even institutions in Uganda, we are faced, as long as the issue of transition is not addressed, even in the mindset we are taught in parties, whatever FDC is facing, to me, I'm not shocked, I'm not surprised. Because issues of transition, even at family level, they are key. Because we will have children who will want to sell land and buy a border. We will have those children who will want to multiply. Yeah? So the clans have disappeared. There have been, even, I think even cultural institutions have struggled on issue of transition. Who will be our next king? It is whenever we discuss parties and we forget the role of parties. The role of party, a party has to have a transition in leadership. A party has to give birth. It has to have it has to germinate. He's a living example of people you can reference to in parties. He was a UID member. He never joined the DP, but I worked closely with him when he was heading institutions in People Power Movement. He has been in the field and interacted with youth from majority. I don't think most of his friends are even in NUP. I can be very clear because I've seen him. But he has discovered that there is a role as a generation we need to play, irrespective of where you are. On how we work, the roles, and how you address the gaps. It is, I think, in all this that you see, my brother Justus has shown you his dissatisfaction of why youth. Why youth, even in the setting of the constitution, there is a full youth league. But our roles, we have also even at some moment neglected responsibility. I don't think the Honorable Kyagulanyi celebrates more that is being followed by youth. But it's because his issue was to awaken youth to get to know their responsibility. I was part of that discussion. He was there. All the times we met with him, by then when he was just beginning, before even Arua, it was to awaken youth to responsibility. I think the more we run away from the actual debate and then simple, as where we grow from, I can tell you, we were being caned by our parents that when you grow, you should be like Nandala. So that because he was the man who had studied broadly and moved far from the region we come from. So you see such a setup. The role of young people in any nation who have got an education, who have got an environment that really segregates them from taking up their responsibility, that compromises their future. I think majority of us, we can come here, pretend we know, but our future is compromised. And when others are doing something about it, they are fools, either they are lost or either they are being used. But we need to accept. And this is what General Museveni, the individual, is leveraging on. The environment he created for political parties was enough that it would always be hard. Because now, today, we shall discuss the conflicts of parties, roles of parties. It is just a trend that this year, this very time, next year, the very time, we shall have the very topic. We didn't beat him in the election. Let's be realistic. You will win him, but he has already created an environment of how he can always play. I think unless we sit and have a dialogue on how to beat the system, at least where do we negotiate with the system to bring compromise, equality as youth. Because I'm telling you, the next year, 2024, the very time, you can host the very topic and our views want to be different. Yes? FDC, we don't know where it will be by then. When the UPC was being discussed, I think the topic was not different. When DP was being discussed, I think the topic was not different. But what has remained the core challenge is the environment that these parties are. I think even as he is our head of the National Youth Council, the challenges that are being inherited from Mbale to the current chairman, they never change. They are just to be compromised. When the youth shout, Museveni will call you to State House, take some photos, you'll be on top of New Vision. You go back and lie your friends. You come and lie them, there is hope. We have now become pastors, especially the young people. We have become pastors where we pick from some prophet and you want to disseminate onto your friends whom you feel are less privileged. But it should call us to consciousness on how we can dialogue better, especially the young people in FDC. I think we are also much responsible that we have not done much because the party itself is struggling in terms that it had no weapons of conflict management. Conflicts have been growing, but the party has been just like a party designed in a structure where individuals have more power. Once you meet,
just conclude because we need to move to.
Yeah, so in response to the question of the youth, I think as young people today, especially you, our viewers and followers, we have a responsibility not to take part, but to be part of the solution. To come out and own. Honestly, me and Justus, we own FDC more than Nandala and the likes today because we are young. He carried most of FDC burdens in Makerere that even someone's life was lost. I don't think he feels well that he has been branded such a candidate. He has a weight that he carries because of FDC. And is why I call that, I know the youth, is why I call he needs to also take an extra initiative. Because I don't think you're happy where you are with what FDC has cost you. You had the extra as a good business you would do than concentrating on building a party, but you did because there is a Uganda you want. You brought out a clear point that you admire the identity, the ideology. Me, unfortunately, I never admired. I was taught. Through the environment I was living, I grasped. He can tell you he has been my judge at debates. He can tell you that people will always know that man should have certain roots. He has not been by accident. So as young people, irrespective of our parties, I think such discussions, when you have these submissions, they distract us from the big cause. We are always distracted by the parties, the individuals, but we are going to inherit a country. I will be very lucky to go to Guru and see the country he will inherit in 20 years. I know he will be MP in Guru. He will maybe the Speaker of Parliament because he's good. But I'm willing to see the challenges he's going to inherit. Because me where I come from in Mbale, they are intense. Every day as you struggle to bring this, they innovate more. But the system doesn't care. It just speaks from it, doesn't bring back.
Thank you very much, comrade. And I think when you say you and Justus have a big stake in FDC, I think collectively the youth also have the biggest stake in this country. A lot of lives have been lost and we suffer the most. I believe this is the generation with the least endowed in terms of finances, economically, among other metrics. So that message is clear for our dear viewers. We'd like to move into a discussion, a round of discussions around what the...
Conclude.
Yes, not to conclude, but to begin actually discussion on the performance review of ministries that happened yesterday. Just a few updates for our panelists and for our viewers. Yesterday, Honorable Justin Lumumba, former NRM Secretary General, but now serving as the Minister of General Duties, released the annual performance review 2022-2023. This review is based on against the National Development Plan 3, but also they judge ministries based on the budget, the goals, the output, which are, how you perform on the goals, and finally the outcome, which is the impact on the citizenry out there. And from the review yesterday, here are some of the core highlights. 13 out of 20 ministries accomplished less than half of the budget targets. Half of their targets, operational targets, despite spending trillions in shillings. Output of 15 of them impacted lives marginally, meaning while they spent money and did the work, there was little impact to the lives of Ugandans. Some sectors did perform well. Justice was the best performing sector with the highest impact on the citizens. Petroleum, governance and security also performed well, over 73%. The least performing was community mobilization and mindset change. And you recall there was a move to teach people how to drink coffee at some point.
That billions of money.
Comrade Kidega, I'd like to start with you on this one. What do you make of this performance? The issue I retracted from my study is that while there are goals and targets and output, in terms of outcome, Uganda is still, the ministries are performing really low. So the impact on the citizens is not being felt, despite, so we are busy, but we're not doing any business for the citizens. What do you make of this, and how can we improve it?
Yeah, thank you, Sam. Fast forward is that Thomas Hobbes, who is a philosopher of democracy, tells us about the social contract theory.
Yes.
That there shall be something called a government that shall have a contract with its people.
Yes.
And the people are the employers of a government. The people, through whatever means that they adopt, they employ what they call a government. And Uganda, we took the democratic approach where every 5 years, Ugandans renew their contract with a government of their choice.
Yes.
The NRM happens to be currently the service provider to Ugandans. And they happen to be the servants currently. So they have a responsibility to Ugandans. They are duty bearers. And what a government is charged with are basically the common good. Social services like healthcare, infrastructure, education, peace and security, among others. Because of the ever-changing economic and social political dispensation is that we have found ourselves at a state where there is more government-private collaborations in terms of offering service delivery. Government has ever since ceased to be the monopoly in terms of offering either healthcare, education, and other infrastructures, because we adopted in the 1980s the structure adjustment programs, but also there is an ever-growing private sector, and therefore government cannot find itself wielding complete autonomy over services anymore. So it's from that background that government finds itself bearing the responsibility of the common good like healthcare, education, infrastructure. So how have we performed? I think that the challenges like corruption notwithstanding, the NRM government is moving at a snail's pace. That much I must confess. Uganda should not be where it is today. There is so much misuse of public resources. Year in, year out, we have corruption scandals. We have, the taxpayer is highly burdened by the cost of administration. You have a parliament of over 500 MPs, you have RDCs everywhere. So the cost of administration on the taxpayer is too much. So our government, even when the president has encouraged us to be frugal, I think that the practice has been different. We say we should be frugal, but you look at government expenditure, it's too high. And perhaps I would have no issue with government expenditure, but are you spending on the right things? Are you spending on infrastructure? Are you spending on healthcare? But we are borrowing money. You know that now our debt burden is almost hitting the debt ceiling. We are at 89 trillion. Burden of debt. And debt would not be an issue because you know that USA and China are very highly indebted countries. But the issue is when you borrow money, are you investing it in services that impact the lives of Ugandans? I think to me that is the fundamental question. All right? So the government is moving at a snail's pace. We are falling short on so many issues, issues around education. And if you may recall, during the International Youth Week, we did resound the need for government to refinance the students' loan scheme. That was halted. You know that ever since 2014, over 10,000 students have benefited from the students' loan scheme. I was a beneficiary when I was pursuing my degree of the students' loan scheme. So if you have a government that is not willing to refinance such a scheme, I think that is a shortcoming. But also the areas where we have done well, issues of peace and security, I think there the NRM has done fantastically well, and government needs to be credited on that. But issues around education, it is still lacking, right? Because you know that there's so many students who enroll at primary level. About 30% of them don't go ahead to enroll in secondary. Then from those who accomplish secondary, not so many still go ahead to pursue tertiary or higher education. So education, there is still a gap, but there are things that we need to look at, like corruption, the cost of administration. Once we can address one or two of those small issues, I think that
Comrade,
there's
I
great potential.
wanted to give you a minute to speak to one of the reviews that came out, which is that 4 out of 10 goals in innovation and tech were achieved, but there's a low outcome. Meaning, the government set some goals for trying to bring innovation within society, including skilling. But the outcome to the Ugandan public has been low. Why do you think that is? Given your background in both law and tech.
And tech, true. One of the goals that the government set out under the ICT ministry was that there needs to be an increased penetration of internet. And if you recall, about 3 months ago, government pronounced itself and cut the cost of internet by 35%. All right. So I think when
that one is performing well. That's digital transformation is one of the highest performing. But in terms of supporting innovation, especially among youth and all, it's very low. So the issues around innovation.
I think that still goes back to access to information, because the funds are there. The Ministry of ICT has funds. The Ministry of Science and Technology has funds set aside for innovation. But also, like I mentioned, there are other development partners that have come on board. After here, the Youth Council has a meeting with Flip. Flip does work around empowering youth in technology. So that's why I mentioned earlier on that we cannot look at government only entirely. We work in a liberal economy where even the private sector is coming in to support. But on the issue of innovation, I think it is lack of access to information, because the funds are there, but people don't know where to access them, but also the bureaucracy at times frustrates them.
So there's an information issue. I'd like to bring in Comrade Kateregga. You've heard about the performance of our government, including some of these statistics. For example, 13 out of 20 ministries accomplished less than half of their targets. 13 out of 20, that's over 65%, accomplishing less than half of their. But these ministries have ministers. Do you think in our system there's a system of accountability? Because the thing is, if you don't perform even half, in school you're expelled, at work you're fired. But do you think in government there's a culture of accountability for example, these 13 ministers whose ministries failed to achieve these goals?
Thank you, sir. The challenge our community continues to face is that, for example, the Right Honorable Justin Lumumba came out and read, and then there are no what are they called, the key indicators for us to know as the public to mark against, and and for me the yardstick I would use would be the NRM manifesto that is being implemented at that. And I remember there are 6 talking points, and that is where I want to go.
Yes, please.
If I may, for example, Tackle 1. Moses has done us justice. I am happy for the first time, maybe because he was talking about the youth, and it has a direct budget implication on him. So he had to sound that way. He didn't go into defending the Nakaba. When you look at the NRM, some of the promises, they promised to improve the justice, law and order sector of the country. in their manifesto to the public. I do not know if any of you here has been into the cells like I have been, or more than I have been. More than I have been, maybe none of you. But if any of you has actually...
For example, in the convocation election, was entirely arrested and detained.
You were detained at Wandegea police division. You saw the road there. And you see that touches when you say justice, law and order sector. It goes. One wise man said that for you to see the progress of the nation, you need to check how it treats the lowest of its citizens. And for that case big, that person whose rights have been curtailed, how you treat the prisoners of your nation speaks a lot to how you treat your citizens. Moses tested what we go through every day, because for us, cells are like home to some of us because of the activities we do. When you look at those cells, police cells, they're disgusting. The very last one I entered, I think, was around February this year in Kasanda, where we were detained. I went with my friend, the MP. He escaped, so in the first, but we were lucky because, but when I entered there, I began speaking to the people. People were spending 2 months in police cells, and they were not even aware that, that the law says you cannot spend more than 48 hours in the police cell. Yes. When I began talking to them about this, they were shocked.
But Olivia spent more.
I was coming to Olivia Rutaya and other people, the Machete Yasid, the Seguja Yasins, our colleagues who have who have been incarcerated for this long in a sector that they are reporting that has improved greatly. From where I stand, I have given you, Masawi has spoken about Comrade Olivia Rutaya. People who have been denied justice, who are being court-martialed, civilians being court-martialed. I think we are living in a denial. If we left that sector, for example, and went into
that sector, it is Kaihura who benefited.
Thank you. Maybe that is if what Kaihura got was actually justice. But you move away from the justice, law and sector, and then move to education. Since 2021, you remember we're faced with the second lockdown, if you remember very well. Uganda is the only country in the world that had its students not going to school for more than 1.5 years. These are realities, not other factors notwithstanding, because when other nations faced the COVID challenges, they began coming up with means to ensure that effective education is carried forward. If we are honest, we would address the disparities without drilling into these statistics, because those are general. In our real life, we have neighbors, we have friends around us. You've seen that students who are with the rich parents who are able to take their children to international schools continued studying during the COVID phase off. They benefited and covered 2 extra years.
Comrade, in 2 minutes. So
yes.
That,
covered 2 covered 2 extra years that to a disadvantage of the other citizens. So for me, I think the challenges of this nation, as I conclude, evolve and remain. One, there are no key indicators for the citizens to say that you promised us this is where we are, and indeed we can assess. When you look at the budget performance, for example, everything is not in tandem. Rather, it is what the system generates and brings for the masses to consume. The reality is remains that I wanted to conclude with this statement on the FDC. Justus in his book on about the DR Congo, the war that doesn't say its name, wrote there is a character that was referred to as the Muntu Matata, or the trouble causer. And I think Uganda also needs to identify its Muntu Matata, why people are not accountable, why we continue to and deal with these challenges once and for all. We will remain in this cycle. Masses will continue to vote in people. We will not have results at the end of we will continue getting loans, which loans will not feed into the reality of the people. You saw COVID-19 and its effects and what it did to us, and how vis-a-vis our other countries moved on, and how their economies are performing, and how we are now facing the reality, because those resources were stolen and no one holds these people accountable. So before we go into these indicators, we need to bring up mechanisms to ensure that the duty bearers are actually accountable to the masses.
In reality, but also what we see in reality is a very low culture of accountability in Uganda. These ministers, 13 out of 20, achieved less than half of their targets. Many of them will stay. If history is anything to go by, we have a citizenry that will not even look at this information at all, and a lot of these things. So where is that culture of accountability, and how can we bring it back? Because it is what it takes to put these ministers in line, put these ministries in line, and also have an active citizenry. So it's both the people, the employers of the ministers, but also us who are the ultimate employers, to call them out. Where is that culture?
To me, I really caution the accountability of Uganda. Because by the time we have a ghost hospital in a certain district,
Ghost district.
Sorry, ghost district in the country. You see, we have a ghost district in the country. It is receiving money, and the money is accounted for. It has workers. It has the RDC, it has the district leaders, all the people within the district leadership structure. And when you ask me about the accountability of Uganda, I really have to caution it so much. Because where is Uganda? Like, where is it? Having a ghost district in the country, that is very impossible. Actually, it's near to impossible. Where is our constitution? Where is our constitution working? You get? So I think Uganda needs to do a lot in regards to follow up. We do the Right Honorable Speaker, her deputy. What they do, and the members of parliament is to legislate, and I guess after that they just go and sleep. They don't take the initiative of knowing what is going to happen after. We've seen committees. Some committees are dormant, and some committees are working. But we need to capitalize so much on following up. So it goes back to some ministries. Take an example of the Ministry of Labor. It has formulated policies in the parliament, but I have not seen them implement the policies. Take an example of our brothers and sisters that are working outside the country. I've never had any single day where a Minister of Labor is is having a trip to Dubai to have a conference with those people, to understand how they are taking their jobs, to understand if the policies are working in their favor, to also take an initiative of working closely with those governments where they are, and working closely with them and seeing whether their people are getting enough of what they expect to be given. So, and also regulating policies that are also going to bring back our people safely, because we've received several cases where our brothers are being killed, being harassed, and we are not taking, we're not putting it at the forefront. You get? So I guess we need to, that ministries have to do a lot of follow-up, but not just talking, and not just making requisitions of money, and just having that in their heads that maybe certain money went to Gomba, where I come from, that they are working on a particular road. Yet the road has even taken 2 years minus being worked on. So I guess it all goes back on if by any chance I would get that authority, I would actually, being an engineer, I know what it takes and what it means to do a follow-up on a particular project, because it won't really work. It won't even have any progress if you're not following up. If you don't want to, if you're not in know of the employees that have worked, the employees that need money, the employees that are not satisfied with the environment, and you talk to the human resource and understand why, and find a way, or a better way to make sure that you make them happy, because that's how you're going to receive results. You're not just going to get results because you've just gone on site and you've just looked at the project moving. You don't know what is taking place. You've not contacted the quantity surveyor for the last 2 months. You've not contacted the architect. You've not contacted people that are supposed to take the project on. But just because you're seeing it moving, or just because you're not seeing it moving, so you just come and start talking to people that maybe the project is not moving. You have to be involved in whichever process that is taking place. Yeah, you see the president of Uganda bringing the initiative of the OPDM, of PDM, but how is it going to be implemented? Which people are going to register for that money? Are they the rich, or they are just the people that the money is supposed to go to? Recently, I was looking at an interview of one businessman in this city, that is Wavamuno, and actually he was raising a very good point. Instead of us sending this money to the villages and without following up, because I'm very sure that money, if the government is looking at recovering that money back to the government accounts, I guess they are going to receive 20% of the money because of lack of follow-up. Lack of follow-up. So he was saying that instead of sending this money to the villages, they would rather move around the towns here and create opportunities for these people that are selling things around the roads, because you're not going to force someone money. Someone has been in the village, they are comfortable. You're not going to call, I want Justus, please come and register. No, these people have shown interest of running a particular business. Pick up those people and come and give them support, financial support. Give them what you think is best for them to take their businesses to another level. So I guess the government needs to do a lot of follow-up. Take an example of the Ministry of Transport. It received 14% of the budget, but have the roads been worked upon? In Kampala here, it's the biggest challenge that we are facing. Yet it is something very little that we can actually accomplish in the shortest time possible. We can have like a run for 2 months and we say, today we are going to work on the YSA roads. Because I, being an engineer, I guess a road, these pathogens that we are actually facing, that we have in our roads, there are some things that can be worked upon in the shortest time. You get? So long as there is a proper planning, so long as there is a proper process of receiving the resources, not misusing the resources that are coming, and also the government of Uganda is facing a lot of corruption. It is a very big vice that we are facing in the country, corruption, because we receive.
Thank you. Comrade, I would like to bring in my colleague here, Comrade Ivan, just to conclude on that issue. We have a similar question going around accountability, which he has tried to speak on the part of, as an engineer from inside.
I am one as well.
Yes, but while you're an engineer, I'd like you to answer the question: why is it that the citizenry have no sense of accountability? In fact, that they normally, these are not factors that are looked upon during elections. For example, that this minister was underperforming. There was also a review of MPs, but these seem to be at the back end of the minds of the citizen, and especially the youth. Seems to be more of a bandwagon sort of election cycle.
Ceremony.
Why are we in this predicament, and how can we get out of it, especially the young ones?
Thank you very much, Sam. I can give you a good example. When Honorable His Excellency Kateregga Julius was the guild president in Makerere, the people he appointed as his ministers were his representation. The performance those people performed is what they remember about Kateregga in Makerere. Kateregga is remembered through the works his ministers did. Whether welfare, whether student rights, whether advocacy. When President Museveni appointed fishermen and fisherwomen, we expected results of fishermen and fisherwomen. If they are not catching fish or mukena and they are catching sand, he was very clear when appointing these fellows. He referred them to fishermen and women. So the results they are giving, they are a minister you work on behalf of the president. As who have been lucky to work in the guild, you work on behalf of, it is an agenda that you set as a leader and you need to supervise these individuals. So the results are the performance of Museveni from in the half term he has had. These are the results he has. But in Uganda, it is not a surprise. In Uganda, as long as State House is functioning well, the group that has captured the country is functioning well. Police have tear gas. Police, even if they don't have salary and food, plus shelter, they have never received that. But as long as they have tear gas and uniform, the doctors will struggle, go on strike, kneel for him in Kololo. The teachers will go on strike. From trade unions, you will be gambling. We shall have our pothole exhibition run throughout the year. Now they will go to a tribal exhibition. What? We shall have, I think, is where I told you that you cannot blame even the ministers, but we blame ourselves as Ugandans. We have also been lazy to seek accountability on our money. This report is as a result of the budget of the last financial year. The budget has been growing progressively. Some of these entities where the minister is reporting is in her fashion. That is just a design of their report. It doesn't change. The very report may have been read by the previous minister of youth. Yes? They never change. But you question yourself, why? We have all become lazy. I think we can accuse the organs of government for underperforming. But no one has underperformed like a Ugandan who has lived in Museveni's era. We should all be guilty to the people who will ask us for accountability. That is permanent, and we need to be interested in getting a solution. But coming back to the question of the youth, I saw the excuse by Secretary of the National Youth Council, Honorable Kidega, that a budget cut has affected their performance, but you would ask for accountability when they had 4 billion. What were the fruits, or what did they leave set that even if the budget was cut, you would trace the, at least you would have account of what the 4 billion did. but you discover quite enough of the money is returned in the consolidation fund. It requires, I think the issue of planning in this country, although the mother of all our problems is governance, the issue of planning, if we ever get lucky to come to government, should be given serious review. As long as even people who request for budgets can't spend their budgets in the time constitutionally gazetted, there is still a big gap. You can't tell me KCCA returned the money, but the very KCCA is having arrears of even salaries. Sometimes it has, when you go to the infrastructure division, the ones supposed to make roads, the time they are given, time framework they are given to negotiate with contractors alone, is still, you don't see any feasibility of results. But we continue with a similar trend. I think there is a big question for us to question beyond her. I call the Lumumba ceremonial speech. It will happen. Even if you removed Lumumba and brought someone else in that ministry.
Even Naban.
Yes, because you can't tell me in the last financial year you had 2 programs, you had the Mioga, and you are giving birth to PDM, and then you want to tell us that you can have you had also a minister, Kasolo, who was busy looting in the same art, same programs, no results, and then you come and say there was mindset.
Comrade, our time is fast spent. Thank you for your submissions, in particular, but also in general, around accountability and calling out Ugandans as well for their underperformance, while we also review the underperformance of 13 out of 20 ministries. Not that the rest overperformed, but those were glaring.
Now, like what did the Ministry of Karamoja have, apart from the iron sheet scandal?
And I would like to start with you in a few seconds, just to give some parting shots to the youth out there as we conclude the show.
Yes, thanks very much to our viewers, Civic Space TV, our hosts, and Center for Constitutional Governance. As young people, we are always happy when we are given such a platform and to always have a direct chat and contact with our generation. So to me as a person, I'm very appreciative. Thank you very much. And also from the FDC, we are really appreciative that you have also taken initiative to giving it a platform to discover a solution. This is a platform to connect people, maybe to see where gaps are and also come up with a solution.
Thank you very much, Comrade Ivan. And we'll have parting remarks from Comrade Justus.
And to our viewers, we are so glad that you are tuning in and also viewing this nice discussion. Maybe if I could leave 1 or 2 words to the youth out there is that you see the human spirit. No one in this world has ever measured how the human spirit can move towards achieving what it thinks it can actually achieve. So I guess it is a time we need to use that we shouldn't see anything as if it is impossible, but we have to see everything in a very positive manner and target at achieving it. Yeah, thank you so much.
Yes, thank you very much, comrades. And of course, you are ambassadors within the FDC. So we are glad to see that there is a voice of reason, a voice of direction, and a voice of national unity, and also youth cohesion. That's what I picked from the discussion here. And I know that no matter what party, there is a sense of direction for the young people. I think what we need is a revelation, like I said, so that we move towards that. Comrade Kateregga, will have your parting shots.
Thank you, Sam, and to the viewers. It is the responsibility of the youth to participate in nation and state building. Francis Fukuyama, in his book, The State Building, emphasizes the need of the impact of the people on the state. That when we do not better ourselves as people, we directly affect how the state operates and directs. So as the youth, we have a responsibility to make sure that we keep on bettering ourselves, that we keep on adding value to ourselves, so that then when our time comes to be in charge of this nation, we can steer it. It is still our responsibility to understudy and observe the challenges. Let us not repeat the mistakes that have been committed by our forefathers and over and over. And lastly, you should always remember that if you refuse to participate in the national processes, you end up being participated. The youth out there need to get on and interest themselves in the affairs of their country, or else you risk being participated at the end of the day. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you very much, Comrade Kateregga. And it's always a pleasure for us, I think for our viewers as well, to have a person of your capacity and stature on this show. Of course, you come from a long line of greats, Mutebile, Nyongo, Mao, and finally, also we have you for us. So it's a great pleasure and honor to always have you. Yes, and to our dear viewers, that was it for today. It was really an insightful show. I think there was cohesion, despite of the fact that we started with a FDC issue. We saw some of the clear points and the clear agendas of the young people. We have also critiqued the national review that was marked against the National Development Plan 3, as released yesterday by Honorable Justin Lumumba. And some of the cross-cutting issues mainly detour around accountability within the state, like Honorable Justus brought out. Also critiquing the statistics culture, which Honorable Kateregga hinted on, but also a call from Comrade Ivan that we Ugandans have also really underperformed in terms of calling out accountability. Those are some of my picks. Until next time, stick with us for yet another round
Make
of Youth
noise.
Round Table. And as always, make some noise. Thank you.